My name is Nickel, Nickel, and a lot of you guys here on the channel are probably familiar with Jonal. We've actually had him in a lot of the videos here, and today he's going to be giving his story on how he went from platinum to pro status and where that whole journey has taken him. And even though he's talked about this a little bit before, hopefully you guys will get some interesting info, especially in terms of the whole chronology of everything. So welcome, Jonal. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing great, man. How about you?
Pretty good. So do you want to start off by letting everyone know kind of what you've done so far in terms of your playing and your team and everything like that?
Yeah, sure. My team, we played in the first division in the Tenno League, which is the biggest, the kind of like the big league in Norwegian esport. I also played a little bit around in some of the faces tournaments and stuff like that. We played in some tournaments. Unfortunately, my team were so much stuck in the scrim community that we scrimmed almost more than we played in tournaments. But like we played in the first division in Tenno League, played on Norwegian television, which was really cool and stuff like that.
Cool. So when did it all start? When did you start playing? I guess when did you first hear about Overwatch? When did you pick it up? And what was your whole process of first getting into it?
I think I heard about Overwatch from like Video Game Donkey. Like I think he made a video that he got a beta key and he made this whole parody video, and I was like, that game just looked cool. And I actually didn't want to play Overwatch. When like the beta came out, I played it with a friend. I forced my friend to play it with me, and it was like, oh yeah, that game was kind of fun, but I was so into Battlefield 4 at that time. So like when Overwatch was finally released, I was like, I need to pay $40 for this game when I have Battlefield.
Yeah.
And you know, I didn't know about the game. I thought Widowmaker was gonna be broken because like in my head she had a sniper rifle and an assault rifle, and I was like, that's broken. In Battlefield that would have been broken. So yeah, I didn't play. I didn't want Overwatch actually. My friend forced me to buy it, and then it came around, right? There was quick play in the beginning, the first competitive season, right? Had some fun there. Didn't really know much about the meta. I was really like kind of noob to all of it, and then I hit season 2, and that was when I really started wanting like, oh, this game is so cool, but there's so much team involved in it. Of course, in lower ranks there aren't actually, but I saw like all these pros playing the games, right, and playing in tournaments. I was like, oh, that looks so cool. I so want to do that. So I started a team. I started like this totally noob team. I went on like a Norwegian Facebook group and just asked, does anyone want to play on a serious team? Made this Photoshop logo, which was really bad, called my team Frost Legion, and boom, we were off. And this was my very first competitive game. I was so noob.
So what heroes were you playing back then, and versus what heroes are you playing now?
Oh, that's a good question. I think, what was I playing back in the days? I only we always had Reinhardt, we always had Zenyatta, and Lucio, and I think I played Genji. I think I had been like watching Seagull. Yeah, I think I'd been watching Seagull and I was fanboying Seagull. I didn't play Hanzo. I didn't play Junkrat though. Those two I didn't play. I played a lot of Zarya. I was such a Zarya guy at the back there.
So who's your basically your top 3 played heroes right now?
And ours, I think it's Genji, and then I actually think it's Ana if you think competitive, if you don't think like on my team how it was back in scrims, right? Because custom games doesn't count as play hours. So, but it's Genji by far that has the most hours on. And then I think it's Ana, and after that I'm actually not sure what my third most played is, but I think it's like supposed to be Hanzo, even though like a lot of those are actually not my best heroes, even though that those are my most played. A lot of them aren't actually like considered my best carry heroes, I suppose you can say.
So who would be your best carry heroes, you think?
I think that the heroes that I really shined on was Junkrat. Like I was the Junkrat. Like when we played against people from the national team in the Tenno League, people that played for in the World Cup. Like the only maps that we really dominated on or was really good on was like Sanctum on Nepal, because I wasn't Junkrat. Like it wasn't the only reason, but it was a huge reason because I was such a good Junkrat. I think I was one of the best Junkrats in the tournament. Of course, that's not confirmed by anyone except myself, just bragging about it. But and that in my hands, so I think those two are among actually my very best heroes that I can play, that I can carry with. I have no idea why I'm not, but my Genji is just such an in-depth hero. So like compared to like Seagull and compared to others, I have a lot of like knowledge about Genji because I have, you know, thousands of, well, maybe not thousands, actually maybe thousands of hours now to think about it on that hero, but I don't really have the proper, what can I say, I don't know why. I just think Junkrat is just an easier hero to play, and I just love the guy.
So what made you first decide you wanted to make a team? So what was your whole thought process? You were playing, and from when you talked about this before, you said you placed in the platinum, and then was it after that point that you said that making a team will be the best way for me to improve, or what was your whole thought process in that?
I think I was seeing it more as, yeah, to a certain extent improve, right? I wanted to learn the game, and I wanted to learn the game like the meta. I want to play around on that like level, because when you play on a team, right, you can create what you want. You can play Bastion on every map if you want to on a team, and in competitive you can't. There's so much that's out of control. You can 6-stack, but it doesn't really count, right? And then you need 6 friends in same rank, and people get tilted in competitive. So I was like, I want a team, and I want to try all these cool things. I want to try meta. I want to try the Zenyatta meta and all that stuff. And I think that was kind of like, okay, cool. The only way I can do that is by a team.
I see.
And
so you wanted to try some like unconventional stuff, and the only way you were able to do that unconventional stuff was by having a whole team. Is that right?
Yeah, that I'm really trying out, like how does it actually feel to play with a proper quote unquote prop, right? When I was like playing around in, like Plat diamond range, right, with a bunch of like people in gold and stuff. Like, it wasn't really a proper team, right? But to a certain extent, it was a real team. We had calls, we had comms, we had plans, right? And I think that was like the whole point of it. I really wanted to really see like how does that feel to play and decide the meta and really choose team comps and have proper plan and execute the plan, stuff like that. And then I just kind of fell in love with it.
Yeah. So what was your individual practice schedule versus your team practice schedule, or was it only team practicing at that point?
Back in the days, I think, back in the days we didn't even scrim. I didn't know what a scrim was. Like, how noob I was. I didn't know anything about competitive games at all. I didn't know about anything about Counter-Strike or League, how you should practice. So how we practiced was just quick play and competitive. Those two. We stacked and played. And then like, since it's like that, then everything kind of becomes practice. And I had that rule. I think I had it almost from the start that like after a match, if it was a scrim in the future or later or early on when it was only competitive and quick play, we always kind of in the end went over stuff like why did we lose or why did we win and what should we do to improve. And that was like the constant thing that we always did. So that was like how we in general improved, was always like playing and then analyzing and then playing and then analyzing to try to kind of iron out all our bugs. And then of course we didn't care about like if we win or lose. We always I forced people to look at a lose as a good thing, because I always said that we rather want to lose now than lose in a tournament.
Exactly. Lose the practices, win the tournaments.
Yeah, lose the practices, don't lose the tournaments, right?
Exactly.
And since competitive was a practice, we never looked at competitive as anything else. Like losing SR wasn't a problem for most people.
Because it doesn't matter if the goal is the tournament.
Yeah, right. If you can like say that, hey man, you'll lose like 200 SR and you'll gain like a certain amount of money, or you'll win a certain amount of tournaments, that kind of incentivizes most people to not be toxic when they lose, which was actually a really great method to get people to stop caring about the competitive rank.
So at what point, I know you said before that you stopped playing quick play and only did competitive. What point was that at?
I think that was around season 3 or something.
What was the reasoning behind that?
Yeah, quick play is so unstructured, right? Like no one cares about quick play. And there are some people that care, and those are kind of made fun of, right? In the community, like people like, can we please have 2 tanks? And was like, it's quick play. What do you expect?
Yeah.
And when it's so unstructured and it's not even close to looking like, it's almost like 2 different games.
So basically you decided it wasn't helpful, and then you cut it out entirely.
Yeah, it's not practice, right? I can do well on Genji, but I was very scared that like if you play a lot of quick play, you get used to quick play. You get used to like the enemy team not running proper tanks, not running proper healers, people not trying their best, people practicing heroes and therefore being bad. And I wanted to make sure that I always played against the strongest opponents I could find to always improve my individual skill. So like the more competitive I could play against the higher ranked players I could get, the better it was for me. And I was also kind of the only incentivized to actually rank up in competitive, was that you would face stronger opponents all the time, and those would challenge you to improve your mechanical skill else you would get stuck in a rank.
Yeah. So with that first team, what was the next step from there? You guys started playing competitive together in a 6-stack. You were reviewing all of your games, talking about them. What was the next thing that happened in the timeline of all of this?
I think the big thing was we got we actually never signed a contract. We talked to a guy that had this new organization that he made, and we were like, yeah, I have enough players already. And that was when there was already toxic in my old team. There were so many toxic people, and I was removing a lot of them, which left a very bare bone team. There was only a couple of players left that I actually wanted to kind of move on. So I took those 4 players and I moved them to this new organization that I didn't own. And then we started scrimming, which I think was the biggest thing, that this guy, he actually knew a little bit about like competitive. He hooked us up with like, here are some Discord servers. You can look for scrims, and he explained what a scrim was and how we set it up. and stuff like that. And I think that was like the next big step that we kind of started taking it more serious. I also did a full cleanse of my team, which I've done a lot. Like I've cleansed my team slowly but surely out in my competitive seasons. As we got better and better, we had to clean out people. But especially there was a lot about this whole, we got into the scrims. Now it was serious, right? Because it was actually good, proper coordinated teams on the other side, not just a random competitive group, which was just friends, right?
Yeah. So it sounds like over time, a big problem that you faced is toxicity, right? What are some ways you've dealt with that in order to kind of move past it?
You kick him. That's the only way.
Is there any stages for you before kicking them, or no? Just as soon as they're toxic?
I made this really complicated, stupid system because that's just how I work. If you want to be part of the team, right? We were looking for people. You send in an application. We read the application. You had to be in this specific, like a certain rank or a certain amount of experience, something that we kind of like. You had to play the correct heroes, right, to be allowed to get in. And then okay, cool. Then you do tryouts, and there was like 3 stages of my tryout system. The first one was essentially everyone passes with just making sure that you're not being mean, you're not being toxic in the beginning.
So that's the first thing, make sure they're not toxic.
Yeah.
That's how important it is.
That's the first stage. And the second stage was, okay, we kind of like you, and now you're going to play with us, but you're not a part of the team. So you're going to have more practices, you're going to have more schedules. We'll give you a lot of feedback, and you have to take this feedback, and we have to see you improve. And that was kind of because you can be nice for 2 hours to get on a team. That's not hard to not be mean or toxic, right? But being not mean or toxic for 10 hours, right? Then we actually see people adapt. And then in the very end, you get to like stage 1, which essentially means you are a part of the team. And now you have, if I want to kick you, I have to give you warnings. You have to get at least 2 warnings before I can actually kick you from the team. And later on I built in a lot of democracy, so there had to be a certain amount of votes and stuff like that. But instead, that was like also because I didn't want my team to feel scared, that I was like, oh no, I yelled in one team practice. Am I gonna get removed from the team and then getting all kind of paranoid? So I didn't want paranoid team members. And with this system, you kind of always had warnings you could get given, so you knew that like, dude, you're stepping out of bounds. You need to chill.
And the kind of toxicity that you're referring to, is that mostly just when you guys wouldn't win, somebody would blame someone else? Is that the kind of toxicity you're talking about?
I think it was a lot. It really depended, but in general, it was a lot of that whole, someone is doing bad, and there was a lot of them. There was at a period of time, there was this DPS. It was mostly the DPSs actually, which was kind of stereotypical. We always laughed at. There was always that one DPS that just couldn't not be toxic. For example, there was a period of time where one of the DPSs that we had, he wouldn't shut up about complaining if I played Hanzo.
Really?
Like, it was just lost. And every time we lost a match or a scrim or a round, it was because I played Hanzo. It didn't matter.
He didn't want you to play Hanzo no matter what.
No matter what. It was just like, nope, Hanzo is bad. It doesn't matter. And it was not before we actually got a coach to view the games and tell him, yo, the Hanzo is actually good, that he chilled out about that. And then there was a lot of, if people are playing bad, and some people didn't want to change their play styles. Some people were complaining about our healers not healing enough. How I felt it was, if you feel that one player on the team is not fulfilling their role and that they're the reason we're losing, you will blame that one guy, and then you will get it personal towards them. So for example, one of our DPSs, he really had something against our Ana, because he didn't feel he was always getting healed, and that happened very early. So even though later on our Ana was improving and actually healed enough, because he had this toxic mentality that like, the Ana is not healing enough, it didn't matter anymore.
So he was already set in his ways.
Yeah, no matter how well our Ana played, for him it was always not good enough, just because like he had a bad early impression of him.
Yeah.
And that way people just started getting really toxic around each other, and you could really see it like, for example, against our flex tank, our off tank, he rarely got any mean comments towards him, even though he did shoot a graviton into deflect. People are like, oh yeah, that happens, right? But if you missed your biotic grenade as Ana, then it was like all hell is loose, right? So it was a lot about that, like individuals headbutting, which was a problem.
Yeah, that seems like a big problem in general for a lot of people that are trying to make their own teams and go forward. When you trim down the first iteration of the team and people were giving applications for when you were filling it back up. How did people find out about those applications to begin with? Where was that? Was that posted online somewhere, or just in competitive games you're letting people know? How did you get the word out about letting people know that you wanted to find people to join you? Because I'm sure a lot of people that are listening are probably interested in making their own teams, and so information like that might be kind of interesting to them.
Yeah, there's a lot of good Discord groups which like are built for Overwatch competitive. This is the same places that we find scrims. And like a lot of these tournament sites that like when they host a tournament. So ESL Overwatch has one. I think there's one called DOW or something like that. There is the Gusu Gamer Overwatch Discord. All those I think have looking for groups. My Discord also, of course, have a looking for team or whatever it's called, but that's not big. And then there's this huge site which, if I think it correctly, is called Team Up. I can probably try to find it later on. You can link in the description or something. And there, it's like, it's only built for one thing, and that's teaming up people for Overwatch. And that's what we use 9 out of 10 times. And we posted some on Reddit, I think. I think we posted some on Battle.net or something like that.
So you posted all over the place.
Yeah, so but Team Up was like the one that we used the most, because there you didn't even need to create a user. You could just like sign up an email. Then you could like click on like, I want this rank, I want this console, or I want PC, I want this server region, and what heroes I'm looking for. And then you could write a little bit about yourself. And that's really how we got some of our best players. That's how we got Hake Sakari, which are Ana, our top 500 main support. That's how we got him. He found us on Team Up and sent me an email and showed it. It was like, hey man, I'm a little bit higher ranked than you, but your team, just because your mentality looks so cool, I really want to try out for the team. Which was a big step when we finally found Hake, because that actually was kind of one of the launching pads for getting a lot better when we got a really skilled player like him in on the team.
So what was the next step from that point? So you trimmed down the team, you started finding new people like him. And then is that when you guys started entering tournaments at that point for the first time, or were you already doing that?
Yeah, we had that's around when we started. We got a coach. And then we got Hake, and we got a new DPS because our old one was Toxic. And later on, this DPS was also gonna get kicked for Toxic. And then that was the first time we played in a tournament, a proper tournament. We played in the first Telno League for us, where we played in the 3rd division, I think, and we went. That was also right around when I found you, where we won like 24-0 or something like that. Like we didn't even lose a point. and that was really fun. That was like a first tournament, and I remember the first match I was so nervous, even though like the enemy team was like a Plat team, but I was so nervous.
Yeah.
And that was like the big thing, right? Like we dominated in this lower division, but that's also when we kind of got into some other teams. We kind of butted head with other teams, because there's kind of like this stepping stone from ranking up to the divisions. There's only a couple teams that can rank up each season, right? So kind of people saw our score, and I don't know if they got intimidated or what happened, but they started like kind of trash talking us and like kind of being toxic towards us and wanting to scrim against us. And then we won the scrims, and then they just like kind of left, and then they started DMing us and being toxic. They even contacted our organization leader and trash talked him and all this kind of stuff. That's actually when like I was like, what is wrong with the community? Like, why are people getting toxic because we're playing in a tournament when we're not even playing against the guys? It's not like we beat them or something. They just randomly just starting trash talking us. So that was like when I started really getting into the competitive environment, like meeting teams, getting scrim partners, and playing in tournaments, which was a big step, because that was like the first time we kind of put our skill to the test.
Yeah. Do you think that in general, playing with teams in such an organized way that you did is the biggest reason why you ended up going from Platinum to eventually Grandmaster?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the biggest reason, because it kind of forced me to always adapt. And always and the same think about like this. A scrim is kind of like competitive match, just it's harder, just depending on how good team you're facing. But a lot of time we were always facing stronger teams on purpose. We were always trying to find a team that could beat us, right? Because the mentality that it's good to lose. So we were on purposely taking on foes that was way stronger than us. Like we played against a 4.5k team when we still wasn't masters in average, right? Which didn't go so well for us, but it was really great. And that you have this kind of environment where you don't lose rank if you lose. Yeah, that's the great part. I didn't D-rank because I was playing bad, so I could warm up in scrims for 2, 3, 4 hours and then do 3 games of competitive and steamroll because my aim was on point.
That's a really interesting point. You get the benefits of both. You're able to play at that high of a level without risking or being stressed out about losing SR. And so when you finish those scrims, you can jump right in and, like you said, already be warmed up.
And then you also have, your team is constantly pointing like you to be doing this wrong. And it's also like you see, even now when I play competitive, it's still like you kind of jump in. After you've done a scrim, or even like after I was done with a tournament, and then you're like, this is ridiculous. There's so many openings. Like everything just seems so much easier.
Yeah.
Now it still does a little bit because like the coordination, like for example, you can flank in competitive, even in Master, you can flank as Genji. You can just go behind their enemy team and kill 2 supports. And the reaction time of the enemy team is like 2 years because of course they're not in comps. If you try to do that in a high ranking scrim, you're dead. Like you won't even get past the choke before you get shot at.
Yeah.
And that itself, like also, it kind of helped me. It almost boosted. It kind of like that. If you do scrim a lot, you're almost boosting competitive because like the amount of stress you get put out, it's kind of feel like you are on hard mode in a scrim, and hard mode become normal. Then when you go into competitive, it just feels a little bit like easy mode compared to.
Yeah. One thing I think that's interesting for especially the people that are watching, because I know a lot of them, I talk to them in Discord and I've seen in the comments, a lot of people seem to have this idea that they can't even make a team or join a team until they're a certain SR. But it's kind of cool hearing your story because you just jumped right in at any point you just happen to be at, and then you grew from that point forward. So I think that's kind of a cool thing to actually see that it can happen. Because I think you said when you first started, you were doing in the platinum range, right? When you were doing your first tournaments?
Yeah. Not when I did my first tournaments. When I did my first tournaments, I was in...
Oh, your first team, right? When you were in the first team?
Yeah, my first team was in platinum. That was like right after season 1 was over, and I placed in plat, and I ended in diamond, I think. But yeah, in theory you can make like the problems. I've also met a couple people talking to me about that. Like if you're in bronze, the problem is not creating the team. The problem is finding the scrims. So then you will have to do what I did and play a lot of like competitive 6 stacking.
Yeah.
Personally, it's a lot about, you kind of just have to look at it and be realistic, right? I've seen people that's like gold that wants to like play in the tournament level that I did. And it's like, that's really cool, but it'll take some time. Like it'll take a lot of time, and people have to understand that like playing on a team, it takes a lot of work. That's why I stopped after my team disbanded, or I disbanded my team, because like it takes so many hours like creating the team. And even if you want to get anything beneficial of it, it's minimum a two-hour practice with a scrim. That's minimum. You cannot do anything less because the time it takes to set up, find a partner, make the custom game, and then execute the custom game. So like you need to do anything from 2 to 4 hours at a minimum basis, and that needs to be done almost every day to get some proper results out, right? Because you need to play every day with each other to get comfortable with each other. And anything like a 5-day break in itself, that's really damaging because you kind of lose the connection with your players, especially early on. But yeah, you can do it pure low rank or anything. Don't care about your SR. Your SR doesn't matter. As I said, we played in the Tenno League, and we were like some of the lowest ranked players. Like we were about like what people talked about us in the like Norwegian esport media, whatever you want to call it. So many people were like expecting us to be like the bottom, like in 9th or 10th place, because they checked our rank. And they checked, the team we were playing for, which wasn't like a very known good team. And they were like, oh, they're probably gonna fail hard. And then, we see other grandmasters, we see some top 500 players going face to face against us. And like a team like Pentafall, which had like some really, really high ranking and strong players, but it kind of didn't matter. Like we still beat them 3-1, if I remember correctly, it was 3-1.
So in conclusion, I guess one thing I want to ask, just to sum everything up, or not sum everything up, but kind of put a cap on it, is what are your future goals? Do you think you're going to be pushing more towards a pro style of things? Like, would you ever consider something like the Overwatch League in your future, or any other areas of competitive Overwatch? What are your thoughts on all that? Where do you think you're headed?
Personally, right now, I'm focusing on my YouTube channel, my Twitch, my private coaching lessons and stuff like that, and of course finishing my university degree. I know I'm not gonna create a team myself, especially at least like short term right now. As I can see, I'm not gonna create a team myself because of the amount of work it takes, and I just don't feel that I want to put that amount of work into learning 5 new players how to play the game, get up to my own skill level, and then starting building a team from the bottom. It just takes so much work. I've kind of the mentality like if I get an offer from a team, I'll probably take it if it's a good offer, if it's like a proper team already well created, got some good players, that's not toxic, right? Good community there. I'll probably join that, not a problem. But right now, I see myself really just focusing more on coaching people, maybe coaching some teams later on, helping people in general, helping the community more, because I think that the community has so many dedicated and talented people, and people even lower ranks that's really good and really dedicated to the game, but just don't really know how to get past it. There's so much toxicity and stuff like that. So I'm really more looking into trying to help a broader scale right now than focusing all my energy on just trying to help out 5 players becoming better.
So I'm sure some people will have questions. Definitely leave the questions down below in the comments, and hopefully Jonah will get a chance to see them and respond to any of them if they have to do with what we talked about in here. Also, if you guys haven't already subscribed to his channel, definitely do so. It's linked down below in the description, as well as his Twitch stream. When do you stream usually?
I stream Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, Saturday, and sometimes on Sundays as my basic schedules from like 8 Norwegian time. I have in my description and my Twitch, there is a thing called schedule where I have the Norwegian time zone. I also have a American time zone because I have a lot of Americans on my Twitch for some reasons. So yeah, so in the evening for me, and then I think that's like pretty decent time for a lot of Americans as well.
Cool. So even if you guys just want to follow and then see when he pops up on your following list when he's live, that'll definitely help out. But either way, thanks a lot for doing this, man, and talking to me and sharing all of your information with everyone here that's interested. And
yeah, thank you, man.
Yeah, and if you guys haven't checked out the other videos that Jonah's been on the channel, definitely check those out as well as hopefully some ones we have coming up in the future. But either way, thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.